Hi, welcome to another reading from Hot Flash Divas. I'm author Shirley Garrett, and today I'll be reading chapter 54, Swizzled. The bay steamer looked more elegant than most of the places in the area. The exterior looked classy with the coastal Mediterranean motif. Inside, thousands of tiny lights covered the ceiling, making it seem magical. We sat in a long wooden booth, Kat and Gina on one side and Letitia and I on the other, and mused over the menu. Wow, look at the steamer bucket for 4. It has everything. Crab legs, mussels, shrimp, new potatoes, and corn on the cob. Gina pointed at the option. If it has crab legs, I'm in, I said. Me too. Kat picked up the wine list. Good, it's decided, said Letitia. Kyle, our waiter, took our order while we admired his youth, vigor, and great tanned legs. I looked anemic next to him, one of the disadvantages of being a redhead. You ladies may want to stay close to home tonight, he told us. There's a wicked storm brewing in the Gulf, and it's due to hit around 8. The weather forecaster is predicting tornado warnings as a possibility. Damn, said Gina. We just left Huntsville, Alabama, the tornado capital of the South. No worries, it'll be clear tomorrow and the rest of the week. He grinned and winked. If we don't get blown away first, mumbled Letitia. Kat handed Cal her menu and in her usual calm manner said, What will be, will be. Our waiter deposited a metal pail that brimmed with food. The only conversation was mms and ahs as we worked our way through the seafood and created a mountain of napkins. When we finished, it looked like a group of toddlers had been eating at the table. Dessert, ladies? Kyle asked. We had fresh key lime pie. I can't move. Letitia rubbed her stomach and groaned as she slid further down the seat. The rest of us shook our heads. I wanted the pie, but I didn't have anywhere to put it at that moment. If I could sit for 30 minutes or walk on the beach first, I could manage it. I could hear the whistling wind as it rustled the palm trees outside. What next? Asked Gina as she tore open a packet that contained a wet wipe. I stretched and dug through my purse in search of a credit card. I suggest we take Kyle's advice and go back to the hotel. We settled the tab and raced to Kat's van while the clouds spit rain at us. Back at the hotel, we struggled against the rising wind as we exited the vehicle. Sand was blowing across the parking lot, and the palm trees were rattling. Letitia's braids whipped around in the wind like Medusa snakes. Once inside, we all took a deep breath. I looked around. Kat and Gina looked like they walked through a hurricane. I didn't dare venture a guess about the state of my hair. Letitia flipped her braids over her shoulder. Where's that bar? Aren't they supposed to have live entertainment? She gave us a saucy grin. Remember, ladies, what happens in Florida stays in Florida. Gina tried to finger comb her unruly curls. What's gotten into your little old Southern Baptist soul? Let's just say I've got a little sand in my soul. Letitia cocked a hip and rested a hip on it. You've read too many of those billboards on the way down here, I said. Kat was wiping the rain off her glasses. Let's meet in the lobby in 15 minutes. I rode the elevator to avoid the deluge of rain that was pounding the stairs. I raced to my room, brushed my teeth, and tried to run a brush through the tangle of my windblown hair. After we had gathered in the lobby, we wandered down the hallway and stood in a half circle outside the turquoise upholstered door of the Swizzler. The porthole-shaped window in the door had a martini etched on the glass. Letitia shook her head. Yep, they sure do like turquoise around here. That door looks like a tufted piece of furniture. How did they do that? Asked Kat as she reached out to touch it. To me, it looks like someone took off the back of a vinyl booth at a diner, cut a hole for the window and hung it as a door, said Gina. I like it, said Letitia. Let's go, ladies. I squared my shoulders and pushed through that door into a narrow, rectangular cocktail lounge. The bar was to the right. It was a tight squeeze to move past the patrons seated there. The left wall was a colorful tropical mural complete with palm trees, monkeys, hula girls, and a guy sleeping in a hammock. Halfway down the room, the bar curled toward the wall and the space opened to accommodate small tables. Wow, said Kat, turning in a circle to take it all in. Welcome to the Swizzled Martini Bar, ladies. I'm Don, your friendly bartender. He winked and smiled as he eyed Kat. Her rotation gave him a 360-degree view of her in her floral sundress. If his grin was any indication, he seemed to appreciate the view. Kat turned in his direction, and her gaze locked with his. I could see the smitten expression and twinkle in her eyes as she gave a seductive, come-hither smile. Don was just her type, tall and slender with a head full of salt and pepper hair. I rested my hand on the padded turquoise edge of the bar and looked around. Each chair was made of black wrought iron and turquoise upholstery designed to look from the back like a martini glass with an olive. The table, in shades of pink and charcoal, were shaped like kidney beans and were surrounded by lower versions of the martini glass chairs. Is there any entertainment in here tonight? Asked Letitia. He should be in here, Don looked at his watch, 10 minutes ago. Look at these. I pointed at 5 framed displays of swizzle sticks. The divas crowded around, each pointing out her favorites. Here's one from the Tropicana in Las Vegas, said Letitia. I always wanted to go check out Sin City. Gina gave Letitia an incredulous look. You're a Southern Baptist. What are you going to do in Vegas? Missionary work. Letitia twirled one of her braids. That is, right after I see the Elvis Museum. Good grief. Could we not discuss Elvis? Todd loves Elvis. I dropped my forehead to the padded bar edge and thumped it a few times. No kidding, Kat shook her head. You ought to see the Elvis Museum. There's one from the Cabana in New York, I pointed. I use any diversion to get the subject off the king of rock and roll. Woo! There's one from the Poodle Room, Fontainebleau, said Gina, looking over her shoulder at the pink swizzle stick that depicted a poodle. Here's one of ours. Don reached across the bar and presented a swizzle stick to Kat. Kat accepted it. It looks like a monkey. Turn it around, said Don. The back looks like Mickey Mouse. We all stood squinting at the swizzle stick pinched between her delicate fingers. And this is our signature piece. Don pointed at the back wall behind the bar while a black wrought iron martini glass shaped device rested on the counter. It held all the martini glasses from their stems. Where are you guys from? Don's gaze focused on Kat's exotic face. Gina climbed onto one of the delicate bar stools. Huntsville, Alabama. Alabama or Auburn fans? Don finished topping off a beer and handed it to a guy further down the bar. Roll, Tide, roll! Gina and Kat and I pumped our fists in the air. Alabama had won another national championship, so we, Crimson Tide fans, were entitled to a year to celebrate and brag. We'll get along just fine. Don grinned and winked again at Kat. Kat looked down at the swizzle stick she was twirling in her fingers and blushed. She glided onto the bar stool and perched with the grace of a ballet dancer. Letitia, on the other hand, wasn't faring well. Every time she attempted to hoist her booty onto the stool, it would swivel and dump her. It was a small moving target for a voluptuous woman. Letitia was beginning to lose patience. I noticed a giant of a man whose broad shoulders filled the doorway of the bar. He smiled and watched as Letitia once again tried to mount that finicky stool. He strode forward. "Excuse me, ma'am." She turned to face a broad chest covered with a light blue shirt. I watched her work her way up past the buttons to a face that looked hewn from dark granite. The man's caramel eyes twinkled with amusement. "Aaron Jones, ma'am. May I assist you?" He smiled down at Letitia's upturned face. Our chatter stopped as all the divas' eyes focused on the gallant gentleman. "Porcatriocha." Gina's mouth hung open as she eyed the guy with obvious appreciation. "Why, yes," Letitia answered. "This stool is shifting around like a bronking stud. I mean horse." Freudian slip, I thought. I could tell by his manner and posture he probably spent some time in the military. My guess would be Air Force, since Eglin Air Force Base was nearby. Without a pause, he placed both large hands around Letitia's waist, bent his knees, and with one fluid motion lifted her like a feather and placed her on the round cushion. Letitia giggled like a girl and looked up at him from under her lashes. "Have a seat, Aaron. I don't know if you're a hero or not, but you're certainly mine." "It'd be my pleasure, ma'am." Aaron slid onto the seat next to hers. Letitia sighed. She held out her hand. He engulfed it in his and gave her a mischievous grin. "This is Phoenix, Cat, and Gina." She waved her free hand in our direction without taking her eyes off his face. "Nice to meet you, ladies." He nodded in our direction. "That's two down," whispered Gina. "There's only the two of us to keep each other company." "Where do you live, Letitia?" Aaron asked. "Huntsville." "Alabama or Texas?" "Please say Alabama." "Why?" Aaron rested his forearm on the bar as he flashed white teeth. "My company is transferring me to Huntsville, Alabama in a couple of weeks, and I don't know a soul there." Letitia reached over and patted his large hand. "You do now." I scooted onto a chair and leaned forward as I rested my hands on the rim of the bar. "Hey, Don, what's the specialty drink here?" "Martinis. We have a whole list of flavors, but chocolate martinis are our signature drink." All the divas' heads turned in his direction. If there was one thing we could all agree on, it was chocolate. "Chocolate?" Gina's eyes sparkled, anticipation clear in her voice. "I want one of those. I'll treat this round, ladies." I sniffed the air. "Do I smell popcorn?" "Yep." Don tilted his head toward the turquoise door. "It smells like my manager got the machine set up. Help yourself." A popcornaholic, I followed my nose to the hallway outside the door of the Swizzler to a freestanding machine. I could see why they set it up here, since the bar didn't have an ounce of free space. The butter smell made my mouth water. I jumped when Gina walked up behind me and touched me on the shoulder. "Jeez, don't sneak up on me like that." "I wasn't sneaking. You were in a popcorn trance," said Gina. "Gina, this is the first time I've been in a bar as a single woman in 20 years. It feels sort of weird." Gina laughed. "You mean eons, right?" A hip bumped her. "I'm not that ancient. You best keep in mind we're the same age." "Do you miss being married?" I nodded. "Parts of it. Have to admit I haven't had this much fun in years." We watched as fluffy corn boiled over the top of the popper and into the pile below. I opened the glass door and grabbed a shaker of butter salt sitting on a nearby table. Shaking over the popcorn, I returned the salt to the table. After shoveling the popcorn into bags with the scoop, I handed them one by one to Gina, who delivered them inside to the divas and Aaron. Back in the bar, I settled on my stool and savored the flavors of butter and salt as I crunched into the warm popcorn. I rolled my eyes toward heaven. If you think that's good, taste this. Don placed a martini glass rimmed with dark chocolate in front of me. A tiny red plastic monkey swung by one paw from the edge of the glass. I swirled the swizzle stick, took a sip, and closed my eyes to savor the melody of flavors. "This is my new favorite drink," I said, and took another sip. The contrast of the chocolate martini and the salty popcorn was decadent. "Mine too," said Gina, a true chocolate lover. "It's good, but a bit too sweet for me." Kat tweaked her blue monkey and smiled as she watched it swing on the edge of the glass. More people came into the bar, and the volume of the conversation rose. A crack of lightning flashed through the glass door on the other end of the lounge. Seconds later, a foundation-shaking rumble of thunder followed. All heads turned toward the solid glass door, the only barrier between us and the horizontal slashes of rain beating the concrete pool deck. Daisy stuck her head in the bar from the hallway. "Hey, everyone, we're under a tornado warning. I need all of you to come to our shelter area." Letitia slid off her chair, pulled her long shirt down over her butt, and grabbed her martini. "I'm taking my drink. I may need to calm my nerves." We all grabbed our drinks and followed Daisy to a long hallway off the lobby. "This is it?" Gina looked around. "There's no place to sit." She handed me a drink, put her back to the wall, and slid like an eel to the floor. After she adjusted her position and crossed her ankles, she reached for her drink. I handed her my glass too. Following her example, I dropped with less grace into a cross-legged position beside her and retrieved my chocolate martini. Kat shrugged. Still holding her glass, she melted to the floor and adjusted her stance to a full lotus. "Show off," said Letitia, grinning. "I'm not sitting on the floor. I'll get my pants dirty, and I'll never make it back up." Kat looked at her from the floor. "If you come to my yoga classes, you could get up and down without a problem." "If I came to your yoga class, I wouldn't be able to walk for a week." Erin plopped down a chair next to Letitia. "Your chair awaits you, my lady." Letitia turned in surprise. "You're such a sweetie." She crooned as she flashed him a radiant smile. "Aim to please, ma'am." Aaron sat on the floor beside her, resting his back against the wall with one knee propped up and his wrist draped over it. He exuded testosterone in waves. I was happy that Letitia had found a man who appreciated her style. I prayed he didn't turn out to be a closet creep. The hallway became crowded as people came down from their rooms. Discussions bounced off the walls, and the air soon became warm and stuffy. An hour later, the weather threat was over. We had no damage, but there were reports of possible touchdowns in Pensacola, 30 minutes up the beach. After agreeing on a time to meet for breakfast, Gina and I decided to go to bed. Kat and Letitia ambled back into the Swizzler. When I arrived at my fifth-floor room, I found a white bath towel stretched across the front of my door. It was soaking wet. I could feel the rain pelting my back as I stood there trying to open the door. "I'm getting drenched," yelled Gina. "Me too." I pushed into my room and slammed the door shut. Remembering the towel, I knelt and opened the door, snaked my hand outside, grabbed it, and pulled it toward me as I closed the door. Sighing with frustration, I stood up and turned around to face my balcony door. I wonder if that one is leaking as well. I walked back past my king-size bed and saw a puddle spreading under the door. The rain beat against it like 100 gnomes, demanding entrance. I retraced my steps past the bed, turned right into the bathroom, and grabbed 2 white bath towels. My plan was to open the door, place a towel in front of it, close the door, and place another one on the inside to soak up the water from the carpet. That was the plan. I opened the door and bent to place the first towel. but the wind and rain drove me back. I fought my way back to the door, eyes squinting against the blowing rain, and laid out the towel. Now soaked to my undies, I slammed the door, locked it, and set the safety bar. The door flew open and caught on the safety bar. Wham! What in the world? I locked that sucker. Bam! I crammed it shut and relocked it. It flew open again. Wham! Angry, I heaved it closed again. Bam! Leaning my entire weight on the door, I heard the click that announced the latch had finally caught. Soaked to the skin, my chest heaved from the exertion. The phone rang, and I slouched over to answer it. I glanced in the mirror as I picked up the handset. I looked like Buffy after a bath. It was Gina. Fee, what are you doing over there? Why are you slamming all the doors? I explained the situation. Wait, let me check my balcony door. There was a long pause. Murder. I need to put down some towels. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I peeled off my wet clothes and stood shivering to adjust the water for a shower when the door banging began next door. I climbed in the shower and laughed as I trembled under the steamy, hot water. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Be safe, be well, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Bye.